Welcome to the bi-week edition of Here We Go Cleveland podcast. This week I'm joined once again by my co-host Michael Zappa and a very special guest. So stay tuned and make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. We once again have great theme music from our great friend Derek Hoover with Dinosaurus Rex. Don't believe the hype. Take us in. Hello, and welcome to Here We Go Cleveland. It's another edition. It's our first annual bi-week palooza. We're going to look back at the season as how the Browns are doing and look forward. I'm your host, Bill Hebel. I'm here with my longtime co-host, Michael Zappa.
Hey.
And special guest returning for his second time on the pod, Owen Neese.
Hey everybody, how we doing?
Long time listener, first time, second time caller?
Yeah, second time caller. This is going to be fun. Thank you guys. I'm ready to go.
We're excited. The Browns are
0-8.
The bye is 3.5 point favorites this week.
I think they've already lost, and it's only Thursday. So I think they've already lost the bye week. But anyway.
I think, let's start off with something that happened. I guess it happened during our bye week, but the trade deadline happened, and I mean, I don't know what your guys' opinion are, but I think the Browns, after seeing what was offered, I think the Browns are both winners and losers. Winners that we got to keep our second and third round pick for, I don't know why we would really need McCarron that much during this season. And losers that we just look like complete bimbos towards the rest of the NFL. I mean, not that we really didn't before, but
yeah, my just initial take on the trade deadline is it's disappointing because I can't believe a team that's 0-8 couldn't find one move to make to try to improve their roster heading into the second half of the season. Even last year, when our team was worse, at least we made headlines with getting a guy like Jamie Collins. So I guess for someone who can pretty much be optimistic about every mess up that the Browns have, I was just really disappointed to see them not do anything. And then on during the day or before on Tuesday, like before Tuesday or during the day, and then to top it all off, the whole A.J. McCarron debacle happened, and that was just like insult to injury for me. So it's just like shitty that we didn't find any way to get better at the trade deadline with all the picks that we have.
Yeah, and my thing is everybody wants to talk about us missing out on Garoppolo and McCarron, but there were other positions that we could have improved upon, like any of the skill positions on offense, and including the offensive line, we probably could have found, although there's big talks about Spencer Drago, whatever, but I think we could have improved on the offensive line as well. So the Garoppolo and McCarron are getting the headlines, but we missed in, probably bigger in other areas, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, or wide receiver. Did anyone hear what Kelvin Benjamin, what the Bills traded to get Kelvin Benjamin?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either. If it was a second round pick, I'm going to be pissed off.
Well, it's kind of weird because I guess they need a bigger receiver for Tyrod Taylor, but I don't get why their organization doesn't make sense. Why they traded Sammy Watkins last year and then trade again for Kelvin Benjamin this year. I mean, I know they're trying to fill that wide receiver number 1 spot, but it's what are you guys doing if you're just trading around these random wide receivers? I don't know. But, the Dolphins, they obviously are in full on tank mode if they're going to move Jay Ajayi. And I don't know, if the Browns ever thought about, looking at Jarvis. I know we talked all during the day on Tuesday about what a great, pickup that would have been for the Browns.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I think, like we've talked about, Bill, it's like, it's so easy to beat up on Cleveland, whether you're the local media, and the local media now have pretty much turned, fully against the Browns coaching staff, against the front office. You know, going into the preseason, everyone's very optimistic. Your Tony Grossi's, your Daryl Reiters, they're very optimistic, but they've turned fully against the Browns organization based on the fact that they don't think the fans deserve the team that's being trotted out on the field. But that all being said, and my plan for the offseason was get Garoppolo and then use our first 5 picks to add like playmakers on offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
But just for all the haters out there saying we should have been in on Garoppolo, he's still a free agent at the end of the year. Now, do I think we have a shot in hell at signing him? I don't. But it's not out of the question, because he could very easily just end up walking from San Francisco to a better situation that he feels is a better situation. He's from Illinois. Who knows? Where he ends up. So, I mean, I don't necessarily blame the Browns for not parting with a second-round pick, but then this A.J. McCarron thing happened, and they were willing to give up a second and a third. So to me, that's a panic move. That to me says that, like, they were not in on the Garoppolo trade, and after it happened, they were like, shit, we better try to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I don't know. You know, just to throw this out there, like, Kirk Cousins is the most likely guy. Before Garoppolo, he was the most likely guy to go and play under Kyle Shanahan, and I could very well see that a possibility if Garoppolo doesn't really work out this year and he walks at the end of the season.
Well, and the other thing is, I think that Kirk Cousins strikes me more as a money guy. Right? Mm-hmm. As we've seen, he's taken the franchise tag and not been able to agree to a contract. So if you're the Browns and you're $65 million under the cap, go throw $30 million at him. I would do it. I don't care. Like, I would much rather I would go spend $25 million on Kirk Cousins and have DeShone Kizer sit behind him, and then and not have to give up a pick, not have to do anything, get him some playmakers around him, and give that a shot, than I would trade for Garoppolo now, because Garoppolo, just coming from New England, he strikes me as a guy who, if he got traded to Cleveland, he'd be gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
As soon as he could. I don't think he would sign an extension at all.
Yeah, and realistically, how many good snaps is he going to have? I mean, trying to adjust to Hugh's offense and all that. I mean, the guy's not going to have that many good snaps anyway. I would much rather find somebody, whether it's a rookie or whether it's somebody we pick up in free agency, who actually gets, the off season and the preseason trying to figure out the offense,
right,
rather than expect somebody to come in the middle of the season on an 0-8 team and think that we can judge him. Because we can't. And we can't.
You look at, like, I mean, we've tried 3 different quarterbacks. We haven't tried 3, I would say, average. I mean, Kizer can get there, but our other 2 quarterbacks are not, average NFL quarterbacks. And when you look at that, like, an average NFL quarterback is not going to come in and make a difference if our wide receivers still stay the same. So I don't think, really making a move to get a veteran quarterback or anything in the middle of this season would have been, like we said before, upgrading the wide receiver would have been like the top move for me at the trade deadline over a quarterback for the Browns.
Especially not A.J. McCarron.
Yeah.
Like he was a 5th round pick. To give up a second and a third, I think that would have done more. I'm not mad that we didn't get A.J. McCarron. I'm mad at the way we didn't get him.
Right.
And And I think that the best case scenario for the rest of the season is to play Sean Kaiser until he can't play anymore. So no matter how many picks, no matter how many turnovers, just see it out. And by the end of the season, I think you'll have a good gauge on whether you've seen enough to build around him or if you have to make something happen at quarterback.
You guys are going to be pissed when you find out what the Bills gave for Benjamin. Granted, yeah, a 3rd and a 7th round pick.
Jeez.
Granted, he really only has this season basically because his 5th-year option was exercised, which means that I believe that would mean that in year 6, year 5, his rookie contract's up.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Kind of going to this Kelvin Benjamin thing, if you guys don't mind me. This is just something I've been thinking about here, and when you look at what the Bills are doing right now, really they haven't figured out for what the Browns need to do because they have a really good defense and they put it together with the draft and free agency, and they got a quarterback in Tyrod Taylor he's not gonna make all the passes. He's not that accurate, but you want to know what they did? They went out, they got a good running back who they rely on, and they tailor the offense and the play calling around what Tyrod can do. And now, I just think that if we stick to it, that next year, Kaiser might be that guy.
Yeah.
But we got to give him the rest of the snaps this year to get to that.
Definitely. I definitely think Hugh is there at this point, ready to. I mean, I hope to God he doesn't, step back and switch quarterbacks anytime the rest of the year. And it's really good, watching Tyrod Taylor. I don't remember exactly when he started starting full time, but the Bills have a very good idea of what his limitations are as a quarterback. And I think that the Browns have to play Kaiser so they know exactly what his limitations are as a quarterback, because that's how you start building a better team, is once you know those limitations, then you play within those, and then you gradually start to build upon the weaknesses. And I think, Kaiser has, like you said, to play the rest of the snaps in order for the Browns and Hugh to figure out really what they can do with him moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, because what's worse than being bad is not even knowing how bad somebody might be.
Right.
It's like,
let's
just get that figured out.
Postponing the inevitable, right? Okay, so if we don't know, then we could potentially.
What's crazy is Tyrod Taylor was selected as a 2017 Pro Bowl alternate. Did anybody know he was that good last year?
I didn't know they had the Pro Bowl last year.
Good.
Wait, I missed what Kelvin Benjamin got traded for.
3rd and the 7th.
Ugh. Breaks my heart.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I just can't believe
that just makes me feel like the Browns weren't even on the phone.
Right.
But if that deal was out there, if the Garoppolo deal was out there, they botched the McCarron deal, how do you get nothing done when you have 12 picks? And
I don't know. Look at our secondary. Maybe there just weren't teams. I mean, come to think of it, the trade deadline really hasn't. It's not really as lucrative as, say, the NBA trade deadline or baseball. But I mean, the Browns could have. There's so many teams that are kind of maybe that's what stinks about this season in the NFL, is that there are so many mediocre teams that no one, unless you're in the top 5 or the top, Indy, San Francisco, New York, us, unless you're in those if you're in that bottom or that middle 20, you don't know, you could win 3 straight games and be close to the top of your division fighting for a wild card. So maybe it was kind of hard to figure out who was really ready to move some players.
Who were buyers, who were sellers type thing.
Right. I don't think too many people, there's too many mediocre teams for anyone to really be selling that much. But I don't know. I was surprised to see Carolina like really make that move. But
yeah, I cannot believe that, especially for a third rounder.
Right.
Like Kelvin Benjamin was a first round pick.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there was some locker room stuff or other stuff that they were.
Yeah.
There's probably always something like that. So.
Yeah.
But okay, so we want to talk about kind of touch on the trade deadline, and we want to talk about the current state of this Browns season. So. How do you feel? How are you feeling right now during the middle of this bye week?
I think I feel more optimistic and more encouraged than all the media leads on. I know you've been to a game. I've been to just one game, but I think we've pretty much watched or followed every game pretty closely. And I think it's easy to look at the record and look at some of the play call. It's easy to focus in on the negatives, but
right.
The game you went to Tennessee,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was at the Jets game, and obviously this past week was the Vikings game. And you know what? Sometimes they say the score wasn't as close or was closer than the game actually was.
Right.
I think this past week was the opposite. I think the game was a lot closer than the score represented.
I definitely think it was, yeah.
And I think that was a true testament this past weekend that we're building, and we just don't have the talent and the depth to compete with I would say a good, not a great team. I mean, Minnesota is, I think their defense is top 5.
Oh yeah.
We scored a couple touchdowns on them. I think we ended up with 16 points, and our defense put up a great fight. But at the end of the day, we couldn't sustain it. And they added those two touchdowns in the last, I would say, probably 16 minutes of the game.
Yeah, quarter at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I've been preaching this. And if it comes to fruition, I'm going to be so hyped up because I've been preaching this since the first, maybe the second week of the season.
I'm going to make this a drop on all of our podcasts.
Going into the season, I think optimistically you said 7 wins. Pessimistically you said 1 or 2 wins. But the realistic expectation, I think, was 4 wins.
Yeah, I think Vegas had us at 4.5. Was the win.
Yeah. So looking at the schedule, I don't think, based off what I've seen, I don't think it's crazy for us to still believe that we can squeak out 3 or 4 wins. And if that is where we stand, I would much rather win 3 or 4 in the last 8 games than win 3 or 4 speckled out throughout the season, or worse, win 3 or 4 of the first. Like the Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets are 3-5. I don't know if they won tonight. They were against the Bills. I know they were doing well, but if they won tonight, they were 4-5, I believe.
Right.
If they lose out, that's a bad feeling in that organization. If the Browns are able to string together a few wins here, maybe 3, maybe 4 in the last 8 games, they have a good foundation. They have young players. I think young players feed off of that stuff. And they'll have a good feeling going into next year. So, I mean, you can't say that you're not disappointed with the season so far. I mean, essentially everything that's happened outside of the games themselves in terms of the players, I don't fault the players.
No.
I think the players are playing hard.
I think I've seen a lot of improvement in some of the players.
Yeah, I think we've seen some talent. I think the players are playing hard. But if you take that away, I mean, obviously I'm disappointed. I'm more disappointed than I am happy with Hugh Jackson, and I'm more disappointed than I am happy with the front office. But if I had to place blame across an 0-8, I would put 70% against the front office not giving the coaching staff the players that they need to compete, and I'd probably put 30% on the coaching staff not being able to get the best out of the players that we do have. So
yeah, I don't understand what this, and maybe the bye will help, but I don't understand this disconnect between the Haslams, the front office, Hugh Jackson.
yeah,
They're all kind of, playing hero ball. Haslam or Hugh Jackson has said openly in interviews that the Haslams have his back, even though there's no quote from the Haslams saying that. He's just going to continue to say that until I guess they deny him. But it always seems like, the Browns didn't get Jimmy Garoppolo, and you see a report that, Hugh Jackson really wanted Garoppolo, and he's like, Hugh Jackson really wanted McCarron, and all this stuff, and I really hope that, I see a big disconnect, and I don't know why there is one between all three of
and
these.
all that it would take is Haslam to come out and say, look, we're trusting the past, we're trusting the process. Like we have all the faith in the world in Hugh Jackson, and we have all the faith in the world in our front office, whether that's true or not. Right. Just to provide some stability, and they're nowhere. They're nowhere.
Yeah, I know. It's
which is frustrating.
The Browns, and I know that an owner or coach or front office would never want to use this word, but the Browns never said or have tried to say that they are tanking. They, the Haslam should have came out and said, we're gonna. I don't know if they should have come out, but they obviously don't look like they're tanking too much, and it's just they've just been kind of mediocre, and I really don't know. They're kind of trying to win a lot of games, but also at the same time make these weird decisions that a very bad team would make to trade down in a draft or not make moves at the deadline or anything like that. So. If
you had to grade them on a scale of 1 to 10, could you give them anything more than a 3? Have you seen enough to give them more than a 3?
Hugh Jackson, maybe if he sticks with, outlook for the rest of the season, maybe if he sticks with Kaiser and just makes simple, competent decisions, maybe at the end of the season, I could rate him a 5 out of 10. Front office, their players that they drafted this year seem to be, other than Gonzalez, seem to be,
oh boy,
performing. We won't really dig into that too much, but the other players, Garrett, Peppers, Njoku, I'm missing. They have another guy that starts too. I'm missing.
A rookie?
A rookie. I think there's another rookie. I think there was 5. I counted at one point. But anyway, the front office has done a fairly good job. They've really built up a good defense. Secondary does need some, a stellar, lockdown corner. But they've done. I think the front office has done a much better job now during this season. They're pretty stagnant, so I would probably grade them at probably 6 out of 10, just because of all the off-season moves that they made this year, and all of the just the picks that they've made that have worked out so far. So,
do you think the picks that we have made would be as good on other teams, or do you think it's just we're so talent deprived that they're forced to play?
Garrett would be good on any team. Njoku would probably be a good tight end number 2 on those teams. He's so athletic. Maybe it would take him a couple more years on another team to really get as much playing time as he has on the Browns. But I would love to see what Seattle would do with Peppers, or what a smart defensive what Todd Haley would do with Peppers. Some smart defensive mind I would love to see what they would try and do with him. Because he doesn't really... I don't think Greg Williams knows what to do with him. And it's certainly not really working out with what he's trying to do. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, I don't know if Todd Haley is going to do anything with Jabril because he's an offensive coordinator.
Minor detail.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, minor detail.
He'd do
Todd
a better
Haley's
job.
Counterpart.
Maybe, but that was my thing. Maybe he would be better on offense. It was a mind trick.
I would love to see him on offense, honestly. What do we have to lose? Put him at running back.
I know. Well, then just don't take carries away from Duke Johnson. Take him away from Crowell.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, apparently Duke Johnson. You know who I've been impressed with in Jabril Peppers' absence is both Derek Kindred and Ibrahim Campbell. I think they've done an okay job. Besides the blown coverage for a wide open touchdown against the Vikings. So whatever that guy's name, who was it? Feline or whatever his name is.
Feline. Yeah.
Feline. He's good.
It's good.
Whatever.
He has like the fourth most receiving yards in the league this year.
Yeah.
It's because they play in the dome.
Yeah.
This was his first touchdown catch of the year, though, against us. Like, I don't get why. I don't know.
I'm just saying. He's got a lot
the Browns do have the worst defense against other teams' wide receiver number ones. So I was not surprised to... I'm actually surprised that they held Diggs. I don't know if Diggs would be considered their number one or if he's more of a slot guy. And Thielen's the number one, but they're dead last against number one receivers and tight ends, which is what like all their big passes are against.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all by the tight ends. I guess I didn't really think about the number one receivers, but I mean, T.Y. Hilton only had 330 yards against us, so.
Yeah, I don't even think our quarterback has clipped 300 this year.
Yeah.
All right, so
I don't know.
We were talking about our current state of this Brown season and kind of how you feel, how you grade front office, coaching staff, players at this point in the season.
I don't know. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's as terrible as people make it out. So maybe front office gets a. They probably would have had a C up until that the whole debacle with McCarron and just doesn't look good. So maybe they're at a D. Coaching staff C. Yeah, C.
Oops.
I
tried to.
That's what you get for grading on an ABC scale when we're grading on a 1 to 10 scale. You get kicked off the pod. Get with the times.
Did it show 2 Owens on your screen?
I think so.
Because mine showed 2 Owens, and I tried to hang up with one, and then it just completely cut him out. Because it was like giving me bad
echo. Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to add him. I'll try to add him back and see if we can get. We'll tell him the correct scale to use.
He said he joined. He said his internet's shit. Well, this is a great time to do a brief shout out to our unofficial sponsor, Dover Chop Shop. It is the official barber shop of the Here We Go Cleveland podcast. They don't know it.
I've never been there. But
Bill's never been there, but hopefully he will go soon. And Homer, if you're listening, probably not, but we're gonna have you and the crew on the podcast here soon. Maybe do a live recording at Dover Chop Shop. So shout out to them. The go-to for all you need to know sports as far as barbershops go. So
I mean that's the best. We can just go and bullshit with other guys, and everyone's got hot takes, and everyone's. I don't know if they're all. Are they all diehard Browns fans? Maybe sometimes there's like a Cowboys fan or some other guy that moved in, and those are just great great conversations to have there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely a lot of hot takes and opinions for sure.
Yeah.
So it's always good to catch up.
Good.
Do we have Owen back on?
I think we do.
Yeah,
we got him back on.
I tell you what. Here's what I want to say most. I'm giving the players an A for not giving up yet.
Time out.
We're going on 1 to 10
on
scale.
A scale of 1 to 10, not an ABC scale.
That's kind of why we hung
You
up on you.
didn't stop me before.
Well, no, we just hung up on you.
Oh. I'm giving the players a 9. I'm impressed. They haven't given up
9
yet.
for effort. 9 for effort, right?
Is that players, except Kenny Britt?
Yeah, I didn't even know Kenny Britt was still on the team.
Well, we're still paying him, so.
I was a little hard on Kenny Britt.
Are we going to get into Josh Gordon or not?
Well, hold on. That's the outlook of the season.
That was the most exciting acquisition we've had.
Just give us your review so far.
Like I said, I'm not real impressed with the front office. They're not getting a good grade. I'd give them a 4 out of 10. Coaching staff gets a 6.
Ooh.
Players get a 9.
What do you think the coaching staff has done well so far?
They got a 6.
Well, yeah, I gave them a 4. I don't know.
Better than average.
Yeah.
You're like the number one Hugh Jackson hater. Owen is. You think overall the hand that they've been dealt, you think they've done okay? 5 to me is an okay. So you're saying they've done just a hair over okay. I think that's fair.
Listen. Sashi Brown took the number one leader on that team out of the locker room in Joe Hayden. They cut him. All right. Number one guy on the team. Say what you want about Joe Thomas. That's great. But Joe Hayden was our number one guy on that team. And they took him out. And if a second-year coach has got to have these players around who keep everybody together and keep everybody motivated. And it seems like Hugh and Greg Williams are still, even though they're losing every game, everybody's still together. You're not seeing these outbursts from the locker room like you're seeing on teams that have winning records, like the Steelers. You don't see that here, and we suck. So Hugh's doing something right, at least off the field.
I think that's a really excellent point. I really do, because I think the second that you start seeing those outbreaks and Hugh loses the team, I think you have to blow everything up. But the fact that through a 1 so at this point we'd be 16 plus 8 is we were 1 in 23.
Yeah,
24.
1 in 20. Yeah, 4.
We're 1 in 23 in our last 24 games. The fact that the players are still playing hard and not giving up or not giving up in general and not having outbursts in the locker room, I think says a lot about the leadership overall of Hugh Jackson. And that's why I haven't slammed the door on him yet, whereas a lot of people have, because just the sheer ability to get a team through this, imagine what he could do with a talented team. If he can keep a subpar team motivated and playing hard for him, think about the impact he could have on a team with 10 impactful players instead of 3. So, but I agree with your point too, Owen, that, in this rebuild, I think it's so important to sprinkle, veterans in that are gonna continue the message, that are going to be an extension of Hugh Jackson in delivering his overall message. Guys like Joe Thomas, Joe Hayden would have done. Hopefully, you could have brought in a receiver that would have done something like that. But Kenny Britt sucks. So,
it's been nice to talk Josh McCown too.
Yeah, and that was that was the last
we didn't have the money to re-sign Josh McCown.
Right,
we did.
Josh McCown. All you need, and Jason McCourty is a great one. Jason McCourty is an excellent example too. He came in and he's being an example for the secondary. So I just think you need one player in each position group that can be kind of like someone for them to look up to, and that includes quarterback. I think you have it in offensive line. You had it in Joe Hayden. McCourty would have been a nice addition, but I think it's equally between the ears as it is like on the field. Like you have to be there mentally and have the right attitude mentally in addition to what your ability on the field is.
That's a really good point. And I think, hearing Kaiser's, some of Kaiser's interviews, he has a really good head on his shoulders. And I think Hugh Jackson's taught him really well to not take the lows as low and not really get too high on the highs either, and just stay that middle ground and continue to come in. I mean, he was one of those guys that already in training camp, he's the first guy in, last guy out type of person. So I think Hugh Jackson may have I think he currently still has like the best odds for first head coach to be fired, but I think now, like Dirk Cutter or Pagano is probably more likely to be fired. And I don't think the Haslams really, I think they should, they need to stick with Hugh for the long run until they at least have a good quarterback to see what he can do with that.
Some talent.
That's what I meant.
That's what I meant. They have some talent on defense. They have some talent on defense, and I think they're showing that they can hang. They can hang with a decent offense, but on offense, they don't have the talent to compete whatsoever. So it'd be good to see especially Hugh being an offensive coach. Like it would be good to see what he could do with maybe one decent wide receiver and a decent, like a go-to tight end and maybe a running game that averages more than Crowell's 2 yards a game, or 2 yards a carry. So
and I really think after what we've seen this week with everything about how the Haslams blew up on the front office for not getting the McCarron deal done, and for the situation the front office has put us in player wise, and then the disconnect between the coaching staff and the front office, it really makes the coaching staff look a lot better because the front office seems to look like such shit.
Yeah.
That I really think when it comes down to it, I mean, you can get your odds out, William. Do they have odds as presidents to be fired first? Because Sashi Brown should definitely be first.
I don't know.
And DePodesta, he can go too, because I'm about sick of this analytics shit and not looking at some heart once in a while.
Well, and it's not even like, to me, it's not about analytics. I think analytics is so overblown in how it's used. Because every NFL team is using analytics in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
The thing that I struggle with the front office is I think there's just a ton of ego there. I think there's so much ego to like beat the system.
Right. They're trying to outsmart
everyone. Yep. That it like undermines themselves. And it's like, look guys, it's not rocket science. Like the last 2 drafts, if I would have just drafted strictly off mock drafts, I probably would have had a more successful draft. Like, because we would have had Carson Wentz. Probably this year we wouldn't have had Myles Garrett, but we would have been picking in the top 10 somewhere. But it's just like, guys, swallow your pride. You're a Harvard grad. Congrats. You're brilliant. But understand, like, your role and understand that in order for you to be successful, it's okay to inquire help from someone else, someone who's been in the business for 20 plus years or whatever it is.
Right.
I just think like all the moves they make are not necessarily driven to make the team better, but they're driven to just like be unconventional. Like, hey, we'll make whatever moves necessary as long as it's unconventional. Like the Brock Osweiler trade. Like, I think it was a good deal, but it's like, oh, we did it because it's unconventional. All these trades up and down in the first round to get more picks. Why not just take the best player available? We need talent.
Yeah,
just take the best player available. Like, it just seems like they're overcomplicating things to try to prove a point. And it's like, just stop. And I hope that this season or this draft is finally the year that they're just like, you know what? We need talent. So with our first 5 picks, let's just take the best player available.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one position group that you can go, you know what? No, we're cool. We're good. We're good. I don't think there's one position group that you can do that, except maybe wide receiver.
I think you just burn the house down with the wide receivers. I don't know what to do with them.
Though, like, it never looks sexy to take a defensive lineman. So I think I'm against using the first pick on a defensive lineman because it's just like, we got Myles Garrett. Like,
dude,
can we take?
No, it's like Minka Fitzpatrick.
It's just not exciting.
Those guys. Well,
Agba, that would be the one position that I would probably be upset with if we took it with one of our first 2 picks. With all the needs that we have, I would be upset if we took a D lineman.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think Agba has shown a lot of promise, and obviously Garrett is who he is, and I think he's just going to continue to get better. But it's like, with all the needs that we have, I would be disappointed if we went literally any other position.
Yeah.
Except special teams, obviously. But, yeah. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad if, the 4 of the first 5 picks are wide receivers and the other pick is like a cornerback or something like that and just cut the rest
and
of the
other
wide
pick
receivers.
is Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
4 of the top 5 picks are wide receivers and the other one is number 1 with Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
Yeah. Take Saquon and then with our other 11 picks in the draft, take a quarterback. Let's not get too far into the draft yet because we'll have plenty of time to discuss the draft once the season's over.
Right.
Once our playoff run ends. So I just want to make sure that we stay focused on trying to win a few games and how we do that and what our outlook is for the second half of the season. Remember, we're only halfway through the season.
Right.
So the narrative on this entire team, as bad as it's been for 8 games, could completely change the last 8 games. As bad as it's been, it could be the opposite going into the last 8 games. And that could very easily be changed by just 3 wins. I think 3 wins and the narrative changes completely because we won 1 last year. So I've not given up hope despite all the ups and downs of this first half of the season.
Right, me neither. Let me just read the. So we're going to get into the outlook. That was good, nice segue there, Michael. We're going to get into the outlook for the rest of the season a little bit and talk about how many wins we expect them to do. How many times Michael is going to say 4 of the last 8. So when they return from the bye,
You're gonna eat your words, Bill. You're gonna eat your words at the end of the season. We're going 4-8 or 4-4 the last 8 games.
All right. So we play at the Lions. We've got Jaguars at home, then at Bengals, at Chargers, which is basically a home game because the Chargers play in a soccer stadium where 60% of the fans are away fans.
WW Skiles.
We play the Packers at home, the Ravens at home, at the Bears, and then at Pittsburgh to finish out that season. So I want to go to Michael first here. Because you are completely bought in to the 4-4, maybe even 8-0 the rest of the year, what games do you see there that the Browns are most likely to win?
So I think we'll lose to Detroit at Detroit, but I think Jacksonville at home, I think we got a great chance to win that game. I think Green Bay, I'm not going in order of how we play the games, but right. I think Jacksonville at home, we got a great chance to win. I think Green Bay at home, we have a great chance to win. And we always play the Ravens tough at home. So I think the Ravens at home, we have a good chance to win. And then it's a toss-up between, so that's 3. And then it's a toss-up between Pittsburgh away towards the last game of the season. I don't see it, but I think, looking back on last year, they benched a lot of players because they were in sole position of first place in the AFC North. I don't think we lose that game this year. If as bad as it is to say, if they're sitting all of their starters, right? I don't, like they did last year, I don't think we lose that game. So I mean, I think Bengals away, we have a pretty good shot. So who am I missing? Detroit lost. Jaguars.
Bears.
Bears. And the Bears. Like,
Chargers.
Okay. Who on the Bears or the Chargers really scare you?
The Bears just find a way to get it done. I don't know.
At the end of the day, the players on the Browns are still professional athletes, and they're still getting paid to try to win. Yeah. So, there's been a couple games in these first eight games that we've clearly been out talented and we've been out coached and we got behind really early. But these games that we have coming up, like, there's not one of those games that I say, dude, there's no chance we win that game. Maybe the Steelers,
maybe Pittsburgh, if they're playing really well.
But other than that, like, there's not one game. We don't have the Chiefs. We don't have the Eagles. We don't have those. Those are teams that I'd be like, no chance.
Right.
Like Chiefs, Eagles, Patriots, Dallas. If we had Dallas, Seattle, like, we don't have any of those teams.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
I don't like. You made a good point earlier, Bill. That there's no like very above the rest of the pack teams this year. There's a ton of mediocre, and I think there's even more like subpar teams than there is in a typical year.
Yeah, there's going to be some bad playoff teams this year.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why I just think, like, based off what I've seen from games, like even the Vikings are probably going to be a playoff team, and we played them tough until the last 13 minutes of the game. So, Bill, this is probably the first time I've said this, Owen, to you too, but I think we can win 4 of the last 8, and I would much rather win 4 of the last 8 than 4 of the first 8. So, something to build on.
Great calls. I think you almost like snuck in a 5th win there, talked yourself into a 5th win. So maybe we'll sit at 5-11 at the end of the season. Which
I'm not on the record for a 5th win.
Okay.
I'm not on the record.
Okay. But how do you feel about? We'll get to you, Owen, shortly. How do you feel about if the Browns do win, taking us out of the Saquon lottery? Does that factor into any of these wins at all, or
no? I'd much rather win. I'd much rather win 4 games than win 0 and get Saquon Barkley, because I just think that 4 wins isn't exactly going to catapult us into a 25 overall pick. Like, we're still going to be picking in the top 5 with 4 wins.
True,
and we could even be picking top 2 or 3. And if guys need quarterback, we could trade. We have a ton of no. I'd take the 4 wins over the number 1 overall pick to take Barkley 100% of the time.
Right. All right, Owen. So what do you think how do you feel about the Browns the rest of the season?
So I've got 3 wins. All right. The first one comes, against the Jaguars in 2 weeks. At home, I just think eventually we got to get at least 1 win. And I'm thinking the Jaguars are it. I'm taking also I'm going with back-to-back wins. I think we can beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Just something about it, I think Hugh's the type of guy who wants some redemption. He understands what the Bengals are doing, and the Bengals are kind of on the skid right now too. And then I think I'll take my 3rd win in Chicago against the Bears. That game against the Bears has stood out to me all season as a game we can win, and I've not changed my feeling.
Just something to think about, guys. The weekly segment on StubHub ticket price tracking. If Owen and I are in agreement that our best chance to win a game in the last 8 are against the Jaguars, which I think we are, Bill, if you agree, maybe we should consider going to that game. So something to think about. $6 together. It's $18. Don't know if that's an investment you want to make, but just think about it. and let that sit for a minute.
We'll have to.
Anyway, I think it'd be really cool to go to Detroit and see him play the Lions too. I got other reasons that I want to see him beat the Lions as the first win. I don't think they're going to do it, but oof, man, if we had to get one win this year, and you're like, which one do you want? I'd say Lions. I'd have said Lions back in September. I'd be like Lions.
I think I know you have your reasons there, Owen, but I think that Stafford just kind of cuts up our defense unless McCourty and Peppers come back healthy and look super strong. I believe they both should be ready to go. And
Buddy Calhoun,
Jamar Taylor too. If those guys are back for that game and they play strong, maybe the Browns have a little bit of a chance. But I feel that Stafford will cut us up. I'm gonna go through each game and tally up. I don't know what my prediction for wins is the rest of the season just yet, but like I said, I don't see them winning against the Lions. As long as Blake Bortles is still the quarterback for the Jaguars, any team has a chance against beating them. And I think, that game at home, I think the Browns can really, Jacksonville's defense is really, really good, but I don't really think that's at least what the stats have shown, but, I think the Browns offensive line will be able to handle some of the pressure.
Well, and not to interrupt, Bill, but what I would say about about Jacksonville's biggest strength is their running game on offense. Mm-hmm. Right? Obviously, overall it's their defense, but on offense it's their running game with Leonard Fournette,
right,
and I think T.J. Yeldon. But what's the Browns' biggest strength? I would say run defense.
Easily run defense.
Across the board. They've limited guys like DeMarco Murray and who's that kid from Alabama that they have too? The Titans have.
Oh,
they were like top 5 rushing attack.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, top 5 rushing attack in the NFL, and the Browns limited him to like under 100 yards. So I think that just builds to the point that sometimes our greatest weakness matches up with the greatest strength of the other team. Most times that's what happens. Mm-hmm. But I think for once this is a game where our greatest strength, which is our run defense, matches up with their greatest strength, which is their running game. So
yeah.
I think we got to go to this game, guys.
I think that maybe put that on the radar.
I'm in.
That was my mother's birthday, so maybe I'll have to buy her a ticket so she can tag along. But
perfect. I'm all in on Sherry coming.
Yep. The 4 of us.
Just the 4 of us. All right, so Jaguars, we all think that's a win. I see them going into Cincinnati and taking that away from the Bengals. We played, Cincinnati pretty tough the first time we played them, and I think we'll only be better than our defense. Garrett was out for that game, right? So. He'll be back for that game, and I think if we're coming off a win from the Jaguars, we go into Cincinnati and beat them. I actually think we get a win at San Diego. They don't really have anything to play for. Phillip Rivers looks like trash. I guess Melvin Gordon's pretty good, but again, we have a great run defense that can stop him. Keenan Allen hasn't really played like the money that he was given. And I don't see, as long as we can contain Bosa and, they have another, I forget the name of the guy, another good guy on their defensive line. If we can contain those guys, I see us coming out of Los Angeles, with a win. Packers, I don't think we win that game. I don't think and then I think our 4th win comes against the Ravens. Joe Flacid, is just looks.
He's not even going to be playing, I don't think. Yeah. He got knocked out cold last Thursday.
Yeah. No, he's already practicing again. He's fine. He'll be fine.
Hats off to that guy. Seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. He's completely flaccid, though. I don't think
who hats off to Kiko Alonso.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that who we're tipping our cap to?
Exactly. He's
Clean hit, bad angle. Clean hit, bad angle.
Yeah, when you look at it in slow
you can
motion,
make an argument
hit,
for anything. You know, like.
So
Bill, you got your fourth win.
I got my fourth win against the Ravens. I think, and then going into Chicago, that's just a rough. I mean, no one wants to play in Chicago on Christmas Eve. That's just going to be a rough game. And the Bears have somehow found a way to win these games, even with Trubisky, completing he's 2 for 3 at the end of the game, and they find a way to win these games. And then the Steelers, I think, that game's kind of a toss-up. If they come down to the end and they're in prime position for, say, the number 1 to the number 2 seed, then they'll probably rest some guys. But if they need to, beat the Browns to get better seeding, to get the first round bye, then they're not gonna let the Browns beat them. So that's kind of a toss-up. I know I really shouldn't do that. I think the Steelers do win that game, but it'll be a heavier loss if they're fighting for a bye or something like that for the playoffs. For the last 8.
So there you go. Like I said, I mean, I think if you take all the bullshit out of it, you don't listen to the radio. That's my biggest deal is you listen to these radio stations and everyone that's been covering them for 20 years, and they just they have a right to be angry with the way the season's gone so far, no doubt. But I think it's premature to just dive in and say, oh, we're going 0-16, fire everyone, blow it all up, and because we're halfway through the season. So, like I said, equally as bad as the first half of the season could go, the second half of the season could go the opposite way. So, I don't think it's unrealistic to see 2, 3, 4 wins in that second half of the season because we don't have the powerhouses on the schedule, which is pretty great. So,
yeah,
hopefully.
And what do we have to lose?
Yeah, and now that I think Hugh, hopefully, touch wood, is committed to Kaiser, that Kaiser will continue to grow, and
he hopes,
and maybe
he starts the rest of the year.
Maybe a few weeks from now, we get a deep threat down the field available on the wide receivers front. Little guy I know by the name of Josh Gordon, and
smoke weed every day.
Maybe we just throw it deep to him 3 downs out of 4, and if it doesn't work, then we just punt. I'm good with that. And then when we get in the 20, we just run the ball 3 yards and kick a field goal with anyone other than Zane Gonzalez.
Yeah, can we get Phil? I don't even want Phil Dawson back because I have him on my fantasy team, and he has not gotten me any points at all this year. He misses a field goal a game for Arizona. But
you know what the proof, how proof is in the pudding. You know what proves to me that the front office has an ego? The fact that Zane Gonzalez is still on this team. Because it's
seriously.
Yeah, you could pick up the kicker off the streets.
Yeah, because I feel like average kickers you can get at any point in the season, right? There's 32 teams. There's probably 60 kickers, right? That can come in and hit 35-yarders. Are they going to hit 55-yarders for you? Probably not. But are they going to hit all their extra points from 35 and everything from 40 in? Yeah, I feel like you can pick those guys up off the street. The fact that Zane Gonzalez is still on this team after missing fucking 3 extra points and 4 from 20 and in, it's guys, just come on, swallow your pride, get off of this horse.
And how many games have we talked about, a few podcasts ago, that the Browns were within a field goal, and probably during those games, he missed a field goal.
Yeah, I think they've lost 4 of the 8 they've lost by 3 points or less. So yeah. But anyway, Josh Gordon, let's just touch on him because hopefully, hey, Josh, hope you get it right. been through some shit. Did you guys watch the Bleacher Report on his addiction?
I watched the uninterrupted video, whatever
the uninterrupted. So, you know what? Hopefully, I really do. Like, it seems, you know, all the excitement, unfortunately, it seems to me like, you know, we've been down this road before. And it seems like, hey, he'll come in for the last 4 games. He might have a couple of good games, couple of average games, and then going into next season, maybe he has another incident. So it's hard for me to get excited about it. Obviously, I'm excited about his talent, and I hope that I'm wrong in thinking that, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 4 times, or fool me once. What's the saying?
You got
shame
this
on me.
wrong the last time too.
Basically, if anyone fools me, it's shame on me.
Yeah.
So whether it's 1 time or 6 times.
So is he back for the Chargers, or is he back? That game is December 3rd.
He's going to have 5 games left, starting with at the Chargers.
And that's assuming Hugh Jackson plays him the first week he's eligible, because he can only practice on field starting November 20th.
Okay.
So if he plays the 3rd, that's realistically like maybe 2 weeks of practice.
Right, but he's
and
still like in
weeks,
meetings and workouts and stuff right now.
Yeah.
So.
And that's assuming, guys, I've not ruled out the Browns cutting him entirely. Like, this fucking front office, could you honestly be surprised if the Browns just up and cut him?
I'm surprised he's not cut. I'm surprised he's not cut already.
Yeah, I'll be pissed if they do, but I won't be surprised.
Maybe that gives me hope that they won't, because they haven't cut him already. Maybe they see how good of a talent he is, and if he is here for the 4th time to stay and be clean, then
listen. Until Mary Kay Cabot reports that he's going to be on the team through the season, you don't have to worry about him getting cut. But the second she reports that he'll be here through the season, then you got to start worrying.
Yeah.
You know, I think, in my opinion, he's still on his rookie contract, so we're not paying him hardly anything. I mean, let the guy play for 5 games. If he
has better production when he only plays like a quarter of the season, anyways.
And he's under contract for that shit contract all next year.
Right.
So it's like, if that's why I'll be so pissed off if they cut him, because it's like, what do you have to lose of letting him play the rest of this season and halfway through next season? And if he's producing, then maybe you try to move him for like a 2nd or 3rd round pick. But there's no advantage to cutting him right now.
No, I agree. Just keep him. Just see what happens. You know?
Yeah, he's a big body. None of the Browns receivers are like him. Like, you know, I'm not even going to compare. I was almost going to compare him to a younger Kenny Britt, but I'm not even going to put him in the sentence.
Bill, get off this podcast if we're going to make any comparisons, Kenny Britt.
I can't believe I even mentioned his name this week.
Yeah, honestly, I've had enough of him. But so interesting stat about Josh Gordon is, if you remember the quarterback, it seems like forever ago that this was, but it was only like 2012, 2013. Yeah. His quarterbacks were Brandon Weeden, Jason Campbell, Brian Hoyer, and Johnny Manziel for a short time. Those 4 quarterbacks, in all of Josh's appearances, he still averaged 117 yards per game receiving.
Jeez.
That's insane.
Okay.
That is insane.
But his best year,
2014.
What's his name? Weeden threw for 3,300 yards. Okay. So Weeden had
but like half
pretty
of those
good year.
were Josh Gordon.
Yeah,
that's the year he had like 1,600 receiving yards.
So you're proving a point that even a terrible quarterback with Josh Gordon can put up some numbers.
I don't care. I hope Kaiser puts up some numbers with Josh Gordon once he comes back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying he's so worth it, because he's that good. If he can stay on the field, he's that good.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm agreeing with you. Like, could you?
Yeah.
All year we haven't. I don't think we've had one 100-yard receiver in 8 games. I would love to see the stat on that. Is there another team in the NFL that hasn't had a 100-yard receiver halfway through the season?
I'm telling you. I just looked up the Bears stats, and their receivers look about like ours. It's
and
number one guy, 28 catches, 400 yards. It's like, nice.
Yeah. Well, you look at
Looks like Duke Johnson's numbers.
As soon as he got conditionally reinstated, you look at all these Twitter accounts of just facts about Josh Gordon, right? And one was the last game he played, he had 4 receptions for 58 yards, which to the average NFL fan would be like, oh, that's trash. But to a Browns fan, you're like, wow, he'd be our leading receiver every game for the last 8 games. Because name me one receiver. Maybe Rashard Higgins one game had 90 yards receiving. Yeah. But other than that, our leading receiver every game has probably had 50, maybe 55 yards. So it's like...
Yeah, well, against Minnesota,
congrats.
Crowell was our leading receiver. So there...
With how many yards?
There you go. Like 55.
Right.
Yeah, he was the leading receiver and rusher last game. I was shaking my head at.
Yeah. So anyway, like day one, I don't care if he's a bit out of shape or not. He's going to be the best receiver. He'll probably be the best talent in general on the offensive side of the ball, no doubt.
Now that Joe Thomas is gone, easily.
You mean to tell me you think he's better than Njoku?
Yeah, I do.
I'm not even going to step into that battle. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
I pulled this. This is ranking of the entire NFL yards per game. Josh Gordon is number 6 all time in receiving yards per game. The next Browns guy is just praying to be on that list. All right, so let's get into let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. We don't want to go too long on the bye week. What you making over there, Michael?
Nothing. I think it's the static.
Your cat's like ice in their water.
Yeah. And gin.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with you, Owen. Who was your offensive and defensive player of the first half?
Oh, man. Offensive player of the first half? I'm going to go with David Njoku. Being a rookie and having the most receiving touchdowns. Again, I'm crediting him because he's a rookie and has been doing what he's been doing. He gets my nod. And I really, actually, I'm gonna use the same theory here and go with Myles Garrett as my defensive player of the first half because I wish he had a lot more snaps, but every single time he's on the field, he's a threat.
Really, so it's that one guy on the Browns defense that the opponents really have to plan for and watch out for on plays when he's in there.
And I really wish I could pick Larry Ogunjobi because I think he's my Gruden grinder. I love the guy. But, I mean, man, Myles Garrett just looked good. Your niece
beast.
Yeah, does it concern you at all? Does it concern you at all that he self-reported his concussion symptoms?
Garrett?
Yeah, did you hear that? That like
he's smart enough to be I heard he was smart enough to be a doctor, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I just like if you self-report your symptoms every time, I feel like he's going to miss a lot of time over his career. Because I feel like in the NFL, everyone has symptoms of concussions every week. But anyway, I'm optimistic about the guy.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go next, Bill, or do you?
Yeah, go for it.
So on the offensive side of the ball, it's really difficult to find someone that I think has like just impressed me in general. But I mean, how can you not love Duke Johnson? Like, I mean, I don't understand why he's not the featured back in our system. I think he's still averaging 5 yards a touch, whether it be a reception or a carry. Every time you watch him carry the ball, it seems like he turns a negative 1 yard loss into a positive 3 yard loss type thing. So he's been really the only one that's impressed me on the offense. Other than that, I don't know who I could say. I guess but to Owen's point, Njoku, I agree. I think he's played better through 8 games than I would have thought he would because, we talked about early on that tight end is one of the toughest positions to adjust to in the NFL. But anyway, my guy is Duke Johnson on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, I have two players, of course. I can never just do one, but Joe Schobert, I love the fire he plays with. I think, when you're watching the game or listening to the game on the radio, you just hear his name all over the place. I think he's quick. He's playing his natural position now, and he's just making plays. So, I really like him. And the other one is, Buddy Calhoun. I think for basically the same reasons. I mean, I think his entire life has kind of played with a chip on his shoulder, and it's no different now because he was an undrafted free agent. And I think he's got shafted on a couple questionable calls in the end zone through these first 8 games because he's kind of a no-namer. But I think he's aggressive, he's physical, and he's building off the season he put together last year. So, those are my 2 guys on defense.
Yeah.
A lot of exciting guys on defense, to build upon in the future, though, I think.
Really are. Yeah. And, our offense is so slim. I'm actually I was going to choose Duke Johnson. I'm still going to choose him. I'm not going to go a different route.
Whatever, Bill. Whatever, dude.
I think he's the best player that the Browns have had on the offense side of the ball this first half. And, if you look at, some advanced stats, he easily from, I think they consider anyone with over, at this point in the season, over 65 carries, the main back, and then anyone from 31 to 64, a secondary back. And the numbers of value he adds, total and value he adds per touch. I mean, if you look at the value per touch, he blows away the top running backs in the league. He's right up there with, he blows away. I think he's double value added per play of what Le'Veon Bell is, of what Zeke Elliott is. So this second half just has to be getting him the ball more, whether that's him lining straight up in the backfield, whether that's putting him out in the slot and just getting him out in open space, because we've seen it before. I mean, plays have just looked like trash, and he's able to run around. Our offensive linemen are falling down. Wide receivers have already started walking back to the sideline, and he is spinning around defensive players and making moves. So he's been really special to watch. It just needs to, maybe it's, I don't know. Crowell hasn't really shown me anything more than, that 25-yard run or whatever at the beginning of the Vikings game was his longest run of the season. And other than that, he just gets right around -3 to 2 yards per carry. So Duke Johnson.
Okay, so since we both picked Duke Johnson and Owen picked Njoku, is there a player that's kind of under the radar right now other than Kasen Williams, who's obviously going to have a breakout second half? Is there a player that you think could be a difference maker in the second half? And that includes Corey Coleman. So he came off IR this week, so he could be back at the end of the bye. I doubt he will be, but are there any players that you're excited to see how they progress on the offensive side of the ball?
Let me choose my defensive player of the first half first, and then we'll get to our players to watch. That was our next segment, our players to watch the rest of the way. So my defensive player of the first half, he got injured the last couple games, so he didn't really complete the first half. But I think McCourty is not only a decent to above average corner, but he's just he seems to be a great locker room guy that really, because he's, we talked about this last week, he's one of the few guys that has had, more than 6 years in the NFL, really knows all the in and outs of, like how to go through a season, and so he's able to teach all these really, really young, they're very talented, but very young players how to go through and manage, I don't manage losses, manage how to make it through games. And he has played some, I don't really know what his stats show, but he had one of our lone defensive touchdowns this year with the pick six, and he just seems to be a great presence. I'm really glad that we brought him on, especially with losing Joe Hayden. I think he really kind of fell into that role, whether he liked it or not.
Do you know if we signed him to more than a 1-year deal?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
I feel like it was a 1-year deal. I hope it's more, because I hope he's here next year when we can put some more wins on the board. But anyway, no, that's a great pick. McCourty, I think, like I said earlier, I think it's so important to have some veterans sprinkled in among this young team. And McCourty is the epitome of that, because he's on and off the field. He is like the consummate professional. So
yeah, so like I was saying before, our next segment is getting into kind of who we are watching or going to be watching for the rest of the year. And I don't know if you alluded to Josh Gordon, although he would only be there for 60% of the rest of the year. But let's have Owen. Who's your guy to watch this second half of the season?
For me, I'm watching DeShone Kizer. I think that after the Minnesota game, I think we've seen Kizer is going to get the rest of the starts for the rest of the season, and I think he's a good quarterback. I really think he is, and I just want to watch him develop, because I think he will. But he's the guy that I'm watching, and I think everybody's watching him. Maybe that's an obvious thing to say, because you're obviously always watching to see how the quarterback does. But I'm really pushing for DeShone to get it going this second half.
Yeah, great choice.
Do I need to pick a defensive guy too?
You could do whatever you want.
I tell you, and then on defense, I'm kind of going. I'm going back to that defensive line because of how good they are, and I think I'll go with Emmanuel Ogbah. I think he's got a lot of upside. Again, maybe right now he's definitely not leading the team in tackles and in sacks and all that, but I think he can put it all together, and I think we'll be pretty happy with the product at the end of the season.
Go ahead, Michael.
Great. Yeah, so for me, I'll echo pretty much exactly what Owen said on the offensive side of the ball. So obviously I want to see what DeShone Kizer has. So now that Hugh Jackson has basically tried everything, right? He's tried starting Kessler, he's tried playing Kessler, he's tried playing Hogan. Like, hopefully he's come to the conclusion that, you know what, I just need to find out what I got in Kizer, that we can see what we have before the end of the season. And I think, against the Vikings, if you think, hey, that's midway through the season, the kid's 21 years old, he only has 2 years experience in major college football. He only threw for 168 yards, which isn't great, but no picks. No. So if he just builds off that through the second half of the season, and maybe towards the end he's throwing, 220 yards with a touchdown, like, I'm okay with that. I think that's something that we go in next year saying, hey, we put some weapons around him. This kid we put a running back and give him a decent running game and give him, a couple of good receivers, assuming Josh Gordon can do well, maybe add another receiver and free it, whatever it is. I have an eye obviously on him to see how he progresses, and on defense, man, I just want to see Myles Garrett be healthy for the last 8 games. Like, I just think that, everyone preaches continuity with the front office and the coaching staff and stuff, but God, let's just see what our team could be with continuity in the starters. Like, if Jabril Peppers is starting every game, McCourty's starting every game, Myles Garrett's starting every game, like, let's see them build some chemistry on the defensive side of the ball where, it's we can see progress, and it's been like so hit or miss. I don't think there's been one game where we've had our best 22 players playing offense and defense for 60 minutes. So I just want to see that, and I think it starts with Myles Garrett because athletically, I think he's the best player on our team, no doubt.
Yeah, and you nailed that as far as we've not seen the best 22 guys on the field, yet, and the offense has been such a carousel with quarterbacks and definitely with the receivers as far as who's getting hurt, who's coming off the practice squad, who's getting signed, whatever. Leave the offensive alone, but I just want to see the best 11 guys go out on defense and play a full football game and see what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So before I say mine, Michael, McCourty is signed through next year, so he's not a free agent until 2019. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we got awesome. 2 years. My player to watch the rest of the year is a group of players, and it is the infamous wide receiver core that the Browns have. I would say they have 0 to maybe 2% confidence right now in themselves. It's going to be really interesting to see how they perform the rest of the year. They've taken a lot of flack from fans. Not that there isn't too much talent there, but they have not looked like an average NFL. With Corey Coleman coming back, that'll be interesting. And if Josh Gordon, practices and plays, 4 or 5 games at the end of the year, that may really shake things up and propel them to start putting up decent numbers. I'd like to see, I think Corey Coleman and Josh Gordon can get to have 100-yard games when they come in, but I'd like to see one of the guys that has stuck it out there through all this season get a 100-yard game, or something close to that, maybe 80 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that for Treggs or Lewis or one of those guys. So that's really all I have to watch for. Defense is exciting. Just like you guys said, hope everyone's healthy and stays healthy for the rest of the year.
All right.
So,
good deal.
Any final thoughts?
I just want to.
If you're going to post on our Instagram, what is our Instagram handle, Bill?
Oh yeah, we're at Here We Go Cleveland on Instagram and Facebook.
I thought we were at Cut Kenny Britt.
Yeah,
we're not anymore. We changed. Okay, we're not. All right. So for all of you that I told you our handle on Twitter and Instagram,
we bought the
was
domain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're at Here We Go Cleveland on Instagram, or search Here We Go Cleveland on Facebook. We're at HWG Cleveland on Twitter. It's not taken, but apparently Here We Go Cleveland is like 2 characters too many. So I had to shorten it. Subscribe on iTunes.
Who doesn't love the letters HWG?
Right. I mean, you can make any acronym you want. It'd be HWG Cleveland. Subscribe on iTunes. Yeah. We're on Stitcher and SoundCloud. If there's any other platform that other people use, don't tell me it. Just listen to one of those.
And rate us. Give us some feedback. If you guys have any recommendations on what you want, if you want hot takes on things that are more subjective than what we're talking about, please let us know, because Bill, Owen, and I will be more than happy to give you more in-depth opinions on things that are controversial.
And, if you have listened this far, we do have mailbag. So email us any questions you'd like to have answered on the pod. Mailbag at herewegocleveland.com. We welcome all questions, crazy and whatnot. We may not read them all on the pod, but send us your cues.
And to our 85 repeated listeners every week, shout out to you guys. Keep listening. If you guys think we suck, let us know what we need to do to make it better for you. So thanks for listening.
I just want to say that, now that Halloween's over, everybody jumps to this Christmas thing and everybody's in this Christmas spirit and I'm totally against it. But for me, Christmas just came today because I love being on the podcast. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, Santa was good this year. This was a good show. Thank you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Michael.
You,
yeah, it's always great to have you.
Take it easy, guys.
All
go
right.
Browns.
Thanks, everyone. Yep, go Browns.
4-4 last 8. 4-4 last 8.
Peace.
See ya.